You're listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe, Director of Torch, the Torah Outreach Resource Center of Houston. This is the Jewish Inspiration Podcast.
Now we begin day number 82 on page 486 in the Treasure for Life edition of the Orchos Tzaddikim, The Ways of the Righteous. And here in the Gate of Acceptance, the last few words of the author here on the Gate of Acceptance, he says, Kol mi shirotze lehikones be'omek hachasidus ube'omek hayichud lahakar es Hashem yisbarach. If someone really wants to become pious and become close to God, you know what you need? Ein ze yachol lios ele im kein hu chacham v'noven v'nefesh rotzon b'lo kas. The only person who can really connect with God is someone who is wise, understanding, of a willing temperament, meaning like what we're talking about tonight, accepting, willing to hear, and someone who doesn't have anger. Anger is such a terrible trait. We spoke about this last week. Anger is such a terrible trait. About such a person it is written, and now, children, listen to me, and happy are those who heed my ways. Amar Habo Yisbarach Yisrael, the Almighty said to the Jewish people, all I'm asking is that you hear what I'm telling you. Hear my message. Asher im shematem elai, ani akayim mashen isnav hanevim. Listen to me, and I will make sure that all the promises that were promised to the prophets will be fulfilled. And what was it? Im tovu shmatem tufa oretz tochelu. If you are willing to accept and to listen, then you will eat the good of the land. Iksiv asher adam shomea li. Happy is the man who listens to me. Lachein yosim dato lasis ritzon abori yisbarach. Therefore, a person should set his mind, his heart, to follow the will of Hashem. V'lo yivat berabosav u'misha gadol meno. A person should not fight or deviate from the teachings of his teachers, his masters, uvemi shegadol men, someone who's greater than him in wisdom, in experience. V'chei ne'amar b'Torah, so it says in the Torah. Uvasal hakon, you'll come to the Kohen, hakohanim, alavim, el hashofet asher yiyu bayomim hahem, v'derashte v'yigidu l'cho eis dvar hamishpat. Go to the scholars, go to the priests, go to the Levites who were the scholars, el hashofet, to the judges, and listen, they will tell you how to live life. And you will follow what they say. This is in the Torah. This is in our Torah. In Deuteronomy, chapter 17. And don't deviate right or left. Go as they say. Person who goes away, what's going to happen? They're going to remove themselves from being part of the Jewish people. They're going to extricate themselves. Terrible thing. You see that people who distance themselves from the Torah distance themselves from the Jewish people. So a Jewish person who is not willing to accept, not willing to learn. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to live out in an island. And I'm going to do my own thing. What happens? It's just a matter of a generation into marriage. It's just a matter of generation till not only that they rebel against the Torah, but they're then repulsed by the Torah. As the Torah states already in Deuteronomy, that's step number 1, is to not accept. Step number 2 is that I get more and more distance. Then what happens? A little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. And now I look at those crazy people. Look at what they're doing. They're keeping Shabbos. Are they crazy? And then we mock the people. We laugh at them. Look at them keeping kosher. Why can't you enjoy a shrimp? Why can't you enjoy this? Why can't you enjoy it? They start mocking those who do observe. Again, this is our Torah. And then they extract themselves from the Jewish people. They're killing themselves off from being part of the Jewish people. Mikol ele neda asher midas harotzon mido tova ugdola asher kol Torah klula ba. The entire Torah is encompassed in this one beautiful, magnificent trait. This one trait of accepting, being willing to open our heart and accept. Afilu amru lo chachamim al smol shu yamin al yamin shu smol tisratz lehem usevatel datcha uritzoncha. Listen to this beautiful. The Gemara says that when you have a teacher, you have to accept what the teacher says. You hear this, Ira? You have a teacher. The teacher says right is left. You have to say, I agree. Right is left. What? How is that possible? The teacher is not crazy. I'm not crazy. I know they taught me what right is. They taught me what left is. So how can it be the teacher tells me right and left, and that now it's left and right, and I'm wrong? And I'm supposed to listen to them? And I'm supposed to... What does it mean? Let me ask you a question. Ira, can you stand right over there? Can you stand right over there? Stand right there. Okay, put out your hands, right and left. Like this. Right and left. What's right? What's left? What's if I tell you now, pick up your left? That's right. Right? Why? Because it's my right. Meaning what happens here? You have the wrong perspective. You had the wrong perspective. And when you have the wrong perspective, you need to understand when the rabbi is saying right is left and left is right, he's not trying to confuse you. He knows what the right hand is, what the left is. He's saying you're looking at it backwards. You're looking at it through a mirror. So you're not seeing it properly. You have to know how to see things. And that's what the Torah is telling us. Al yamin smol al smol shu yamin. Tisratz lehem usevatel datcha ritzoncha kedei lasos kedivreim. B'kol shekain kishamar al yamin shu yamin. Therefore, a person has to know a Torah scholar obviously has to fulfill what they learned. It's not enough to just learn and to teach. You have to fulfill it. You can't preach about Shabbos and not observe Shabbos. You can't preach about kosher and not observe kosher. A person has to be truthful. You can't talk about modesty and be immodest. It's a contradiction. It's hypocrisy. You have to be what you teach. When someone comes to learn from a rabbi, from a scholar, from a sage, from a pious person, you have to be able to be willing to cling to their wisdom. I'll tell you that I just last week, I've shared on this class that I talked to my rabbi. I have the privilege of talking to him for 15 minutes every week. I call Israel, I catch him exactly at a certain minute. I'm able to catch him. He comes home from synagogue and he's there for 15 minutes and then he's got to go to his next meeting. And it's a great privilege. I've asked him over the last 13 years. I've been doing this for 20 years, but I started writing notes 13 years ago. I have notes for 13 years. It's probably over 100 pages of notes. Of question, answer that I've been asking my rabbi. And there are times that I'm absolutely shocked by the answer. And I ask further, Rebbe, how does that make sense? Last time you told me this, and now you tell me that. Before you told me it was right, now you're telling me left. What's going on? And you hear the brilliance of what? Torah. You hear the brilliance. He's someone who wakes up, he sleeps for 2.5 hours a night. That's it. 2.5 hours a night. He goes to sleep 11 o'clock. He's up at 1:30. Every single night. So I asked him, I said, Rebbe, when are you going to sleep? Smiles, gives a smile that's the size of the universe. And he says, when I die, I'll have so much time to sleep. Right? But he says that's the only time that nobody bothers him. 1:30 in the morning, nobody's calling him for questions. Nobody's calling him for advice. That 1:30 in the morning is his time for his own personal growth. So till 6, 7 a.m., he's sitting and learning with no interruptions, which is why he reviewed the Talmud time and again. He reviewed the Mishnah time and again. He reviewed the Midrash time and again. And all of Halacha, and the Rambam, and the Shulchan Aruch, and the Mishnah Berurah, you name it, at his fingertips. How does he know it? Someone said, oh, wow, you're so talented because you have a great memory. It's not true. He works hard. He's dedicated. He's committed. A righteous person. When he tells you right is left, you ask, which right, which left? Tell me, teach me more. I want to know more, because such a person is going to share. He's going to elevate you to a much higher level. And I'll be honest with you, in our generation, people think the rabbi's a little lunatic, a little crazy, doesn't have a mind of his own, right? Those of you who know me know that I'm quite opinionated, right? Those of you who know I try to fill myself with my own Torah wisdom, not only accepting, oh, Rabbi, you said this, you say jump, I ask how high. That's true. We're going to ask, we're going to inquire, we're going to be inquisitive as to why, and to take it to the next step, to understand how the rabbi is thinking, not because I'm questioning his authority, but because I want to learn and I want to grow and I want to connect more. Realize that in our prayer every single day, what do we say? May the service of Israel, your people, always be to your will. That's what we want. Always the will of Hashem. All of our actions need to be connected to the will of Hashem. What is the will of Hashem? Does Hashem want me to eat there or Hashem not want me to eat there? Does Hashem want me to go there or Hashem not want me to go there? What does Hashem want? Not what I want. I give my will to the will of Hashem. She'ein adam meisim ritzono v'chefzo al mitzvos Hashem yisborach. Ach mamre kenegdo v'bocher b'masim aroim asher hizer Hashem yisborach aleim shelo lasos. Eich yirtza Hashem yisborach b'masa yishahu. If a person puts his own will in front of the will of Hashem, and he does the things that Hashem says not to do, because he can't control his own desires and temptations, how should Hashem reward such a person? How should Hashem desire to accept such a person who doesn't accept him? A person should be careful to never rebel against Hashem. Not to rebel against your friends or Hashem's friends. Ki bekach nishtabach chacham echad. Miyamai lo avarti al das chaverai. Yodea ani be'atzmi she'eni kohen. V'im omru li chaverai alela duchon ha'isi ole. There's a story with Rabbi Yossi that he would say, I never transgress the will of my colleagues. I know that I am not a Kohen. And yet if my colleagues would tell me, go up to the pulpit for the intoning of the priestly blessings, I would go up. This is the Talmud in Tractate Shabbat, 118b. Ve'ein tzarach laharich b'mida azos ki hiklula b'midas ha'ava v'asimcha. It is not necessary to elaborate more about this trait because it is included within the traits of love and joy. So now he concludes with the final closing remarks on this chapter. He says, Ein ba'olam tov kashmiya. There's nothing in this world that is better for a person than to be accepting. Accepting meaning, open yourself up. Don't be so vulnerable. Don't be so uptight. Listen to what other people say. Take it in. Maybe someone can infuse inspiration into me. Maybe someone can help guide me. Maybe someone can change me a little bit. There's nothing better in this world than someone who's accepting. And therefore our sages tell us, Nafal adam min agag v'nishtabru evarov v'tzorach retia v'tachboshes al kol eva ve'ever me'evarov u'me'etzem ha'atzamav. He says, if a man falls from a roof and breaks his limbs, he needs a compress and bandages for each of his limbs and for each of his bones. But the sinner who sins with all his bones, with all his limbs, is written, from the sole of his foot until the head, there is no sound spot. It's referring to a sinner. It's like he needs to be bandaged everywhere. Imagine spiritually bandaging a person. But you know what? Someone who sinned, like he fell off a second story. Now all his bones are broken. He's like, oh, what am I going to do now? I want to serve Hashem. In a metaphor. Hashem forgives and heals a person just like that. Open, be willing to listen, Be willing to accept. Ishmiyas ha'ozen, if a person is just willing to open up themselves to accepting, to this trait of acceptance, that is the healer of everything. And the verse that concludes here, Hatu oznechem ulechu elai shimu tuchi nafshechem. Incline your ears and go to me. The verse states in Isaiah 55, verse 3, listen and your souls will live. My dear friends, such an incredibly powerful teaching we learned today. The power of being willing to accept, being willing to listen, being willing to open ourselves up to criticism, even if it's someone who's not worthy of giving us criticism. Be willing to hear, maybe I can be a little bit better. Maybe I can change. Maybe I was off the path and now I can connect directly to God and do His will. My dear friends, have a magnificent evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
You've been listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe on a podcast produced by Torch, the Torah Outreach Resource Center of Houston. Please help sponsor an episode so we can continue to produce more quality Jewish content for our listeners around the globe. Please visit torchweb.org to donate and partner with us on this incredible endeavor.